I welcome Dr. Sanjay Kumar Panda to be a speaker for this session. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Panda has obtained his PhD from IIT ISM Dhanbad. Prior to that, he has obtained his MTech from NIT Rourkela and his BTech from BSSUT Burla respectively. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Panda is currently associated with NIT Warangal, Department of Computer Science and Engineering in the capacity of Assistant Professor. Prior to that, he has also worked as Assistant Professor at IITM Kurnool and BSSUT Burla. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Panda is currently a senior member of IEEE. He has over 80 plus publications in reputed international journals and conferences. Also, he is acting as a reviewer for many international journals, transactions, and also he is on the reviewer panel of many reputed conferences. For his postgraduate and undergraduate degrees, sir has received university gold medals and silver medals respectively. Today, for his talk on cloud computing, I welcome you, sir, to take the session. So it's over to you now. Please start the session, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. My screen is visible, sir. My screen is visible.
Okay, sir. Slide is visible.
Okay, my voice is clear.
Yes, sir. Very clear.
Voice is clear.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. In this talk, I will focus on one of the research problem of cloud computing, which I already introduced in my previous talk. That is the resource allocation and task scheduling problems. And in this talk, I will go in deep about the algorithms which was developed in the last 1 decade, and very important algorithms, those who are very important and highly cited by other authors. That work I will present in this talk, right? So as I mentioned that to you, that there is a difference between resource allocation and task scheduling, but many people uses resource allocation and task scheduling interchangeably. Okay, they are thinking both are pointing to the same thing. So the same thing also happens while I started my PhD. Okay, so I wrote a mail to Professor Rajkumar Bhuiya by stating this reason that whether these two things are same or in what context these two topics are different from each other. So is replied by Professor Rajkumar Bhuiya, right? He told that for any kind of application, right? Any kind of application, let it be web applications, okay, or any scientific applications or engineering applications, right? So if you need 30 computer system or 50 computer systems, so what you will do after signing the service level agreement, you know that before initiating any kind of services, the cloud service provider and cloud consumer need to sign in an agreement. Like whenever we purchase a particular thing like ceiling fan or refrigerator or air condition, okay, so there is a warranty card, right, or a guarantee card, which things need to be it will be replaced in the 6 months, which things will be replaced up to 5 years if the 5 years warranty is there, right? Similarly, before initiating the resource allocation, the cloud user need to sign in a document that is called a service level agreement, right? So that is nothing but a you can say virtual document, not an actual document, right? So for that, after signing the service level agreement, the cloud service provider is going to provide you as per your requirement, whatever you have requested, let's say 30 servers or 50 servers or 30 virtual CPUs, that will be assigned to you, right? So once this is assigned to you, we call it the resource allocation. because a cloud service provider may have 50,000 to 80,000 servers, out of which you require, let's say, 30 or 50 computer systems or virtual CPUs or servers, right? So, in what way they are going to assign you these resources? That is called as a resource allocation problem, right? That how they will manage. Suppose 50,000 servers are there with a cloud service provider, let's say Amazon, right, in a single data center. And out of these 50,000 servers, you require 50 computer systems or 50 servers, right? So, in what way they will provide? Because you are not only the user who is requesting the resources to the cloud service provider. Many cloud users are requesting the resources to the cloud service provider. So, it is the responsibility of cloud service provider to manage these resources, right? You have to manage these resources in an efficient manner so that your resource is properly utilized, energy efficiency should be there, and you will, as a cloud service provider, you can generate maximum revenue. Another thing you can say, cloud, as a cloud user perspective, you will get customer satisfaction. Customer should satisfy with whatever resources you have provided, right? That problem is called as resource allocation problem. So once this 50 computer system is assigned to you, or 50 virtual CPUs or servers are assigned to a particular application, you have your application may have several tasks, okay? Or you can say your application may have different modules, right? So in these module, you have to decide which module should be assigned to which server or which virtual CPU. So you have to find a proper ordering, because these modules may have some interdependency. One module is dependent on other module. Like recently, due to this COVID-19, NIT Warangal switched to LMS system, module LMS system, learning management system, through module, right? So in order to deploy this LMS system, what we have done, we have subscribed Amazon EC2, Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, right? In Amazon EC2, what we did, with respect to each and every department, we have created one instance, right? If you create a single instance for all the department, it may crash, right, due to overload. So what we did with respect to the program, in fact, with respect to the UG and PG program, we created different EC2 instances, right? Okay, so these EC2 instances, one EC2 instances is dedicated to either UG or PG of a particular department, right? So we have to see whether there is some courses are there which is there in the UG final year, maybe there in the PG first year, right? So you have to relate these things, right? You should not say that if an application is there, if you decompose the application into small parts, then all the small parts are independent of each other. If independent, then it is good, but practically it is not independent of each other. One module may be dependent on other module. So you have to find a proper sequence in order to execute these small works in the cloud. That is the ordering. Whenever it is coming about the ordering of the task, then we call it a task scheduling. In your operating system also, you have studied something called process scheduling, right? You have studied FCFS algorithm, shortest job first algorithm, round robin algorithm, right? Priority scheduling algorithm, right? Multi-level feedback queue algorithm, right? So many algorithms are there. So in which what happen? Each and every, whatever processes you have a set of processes, and these set of processes need to be executed in a single processor system. But whenever you go for multi-processor scheduling algorithm, there you have multiple number of processors. But in operating system, whatever we have studied, that is a single processor. But here we have number of processors, right? Whenever you are talking about number of processors, I already told you, it may happen that all the processors are same capacity, in terms of capacity, in terms of capability, they are same. Or it may happen that all the processors are having different capacity. Like you have i7 processor, I have i3 processor. So you cannot say that all the works, whatever time it is taking in i3 processor, that will take same time in the i7 processor. It may not be, right? So why I am telling you this? Because the system processors, whatever you have, they have maybe homogeneous nodes or there may be heterogeneous nodes. Homogeneous nodes means we are assuming that their capability is same. But whenever you go for heterogeneous nodes, we are assuming that their capacity is different. If their capacity is different, based upon their capacity, whenever they will execute some work, then what will happen? It will take different time in different processor. Okay. If it is taking different time in different processor, it is again challenging which task need to be matched to which processor. Okay, that is the overall goal of the task scheduling algorithm, right? What is new in cloud? Already multiprocessor siblings are there from 99, right? 1999 or 95 onwards. Already these algorithms are there. But here what happened? These processors or these spaces are nothing but the virtual machines, and these virtual machine can be created or can be destroyed at any particular time. Okay, at any point of time, you can create a virtual machine if it demands. If there is no need of the resources, you can destroy the virtual machines, right? So this expansion, this scalability concept is there in the task scheduling approaches, right? And Professor Rajkumar, we also told a very nice example of Ramayana, especially in Ramayana when the war is going on at that time. Ravan is expanding one head to 10 head, right? When the war is over, the 10 head is again shrink to a single head. So this is an example of that the scalability. So whenever you require, you can expand from one virtual machine to 10 virtual machines or 20 virtual machines based upon your requirement. Whenever the things are over, then you can shrink to a normal load. Let's say that is a single virtual machine, right? So in that way, you have to decide how many resources you require. Once the resources is assigned to you, you have to decide in which order you are going to assign these resources. This is the outline of today's talk. In this talk, I especially will tell you about this resource allocation and the terms, which is the most confusing terms in the resource allocation and task scheduling problem. Then in resource allocation, I will tell you two important problems. One is fairness based algorithm. I will tell you what is the region of fairness, why it is required, right? That algorithm I will tell you. Second one, I will tell you the posted price model. That is posted price model belongs to one of the popular algorithm used in the mathematics, right? In task scheduling, I will tell you few algorithms about multi-cloud scheduling and few parameters used in the workflow scheduling. And I will discuss what are the algorithms available in the workflow scheduling. So this is the agenda for today's talk. So as I already mentioned, there is a difference between the resource allocation and task scheduling. Although you can say that in overall sense, whatever algorithm you are applying to resource allocation, okay, that algorithm if you little bit change, then you can apply to the task scheduling. Because you are finding ordering here you are allocating the resources, right? Once you are allocating the resources, then only you can perform the task scheduling. Task scheduling cannot be performed prior to resource allocation. Okay, so first step is to allocate the resources to a particular client or customer or cloud user. Once resources is allocated to the user, then it comes the concept of task scheduling. Then we will decide whether your application is decomposable or not. Okay, if it is decomposable, in what order you need to execute, because you cannot start multiple tasks at the same time. Like in directed acyclic graph, right, or in any graph there is a root node, or in tree case there is a root node, right? Once root node is completed, then only you can go to its child node. Child node cannot be executed at the same time as the parent, right? Parent is executing at 0 millisecond. There is no chance to execute to that particular time to its child. Its child cannot execute at 0 millisecond, right? So this is why the resource allocation and task scheduling will be performed in a sequence basis, right? So whenever you are pointing to these two research topics, various terms are coming into picture. First one is called as lease, right? This concept of lease, you may have studied in real life that we are saying this contractor got this lease, right? In general sense, right? One contractor got this lease to build this building or build this breeze or something like that, right? So lease is a more formal thing of a task or a job or an application. Lease means you have to sign some kind of agreement. Like before getting a lease, there is a tender process or something like that. After the process, you have to sign and a deadline is given to you, right? And you are bound to follow that deadline. If you are violating the deadline, then you will be charged, right? Like anybody, if a cloud service provider is saying the reliability is 99%, okay, and after that time, after the period is over, it is observed that the reliability is 98%. He agreed for 99%, but it is observed that it is 98%. So for this 1%, the cloud service provider has to pay to cloud consumer, because it has committed to the cloud consumer, but it has not fulfilled it, right? So in the whenever you are going for this lease, everything need to be formalized with a deadline. You should not violate this deadline. Before the deadline, you have to complete your work, or simply you have to surrender that I cannot execute this work from the very beginning, right? So that is called as your lease. So whenever we are going for resource allocation, generally we are saying that is called as lease. We are not calling application, job or task. Simply we are referring lease, right? Second one is applications. Application is nothing but a directed acyclic graph. In few papers, it is mentioned as data flow graph, right? Dependency graph, something like that. What happened here? There is a directed acyclic graph is there. Based upon the dependency of the task, whatever there in that applications, you are going to execute your task. That's why this application is nothing but a group of tasks, or you can say group of job. Okay, that is called your application, right? There may be a scientific applications, there may be engineering application, or you can generate your own application by writing a simple code, right? So in task scheduling terms, we are using this word called as application, right? Next is job. Job is also the definition of application is nothing but a group of tasks. Job is also nothing but a group of tasks. Okay. So what is the difference between application and job? Application is a very big thing. Job is used in a small thing, right? You can assume that application is a very big one, but job is referred as a small one. But if you see the practical difference, both are referred alternatively, right? Next, come to the task. Task is the smallest individual unit of an application or a job, right? Your task, suppose in morning you decided today I have to complete 10 tasks. Total task I have to complete, that is 10 tasks. So you have decided which task need to be executed first. Okay, first is you have to prepare for your class. Second is you have to deliver the lecture. Third, you have to go to the market. Some order you have decided, right? And you have seen that few things can be changed. If it is changed also, there is no problem, right? For example, going market, purchasing vegetable, okay, something like that, okay, and going to a some shop to purchase egg, right? So this purchase egg is you can change to first, and purchase vegetable may come to the second position. So they are not dependent on each other. Overall, you can say that my work need to be done, right? So you have to specify in which order you want to specify. So task is the individual unit, whatever we are viewing, individual unit. Similarly, view papers also divided the task into also small unit, that is called as your subtask. Okay, that is called as your subtask. And if the tasks are independent of each other, what I told that you have to complete 10 tasks in a particular day. If the tasks are independent of each other, we call that task as a meta task. That is called as your meta task. Okay. So based upon your application, you have to decide whether the decomposition is required or not. In software engineering also, you have studied one concept that is called as cohesion and coupling. The same concept is applicable here. You have to decide whether they are decomposable or not. How, whenever you are decomposing at the time, you have to see that whatever components are there inside the module, they are more or less related. They are having high similarity. But whenever you compare one module's work with another module's work, there should be maximum dissimilarity. Okay, they should be different as possible. Okay, so that you can say module 1 work is completely different from the module 2 work. Okay, so in this way, These terms are used in the resource allocation and task scheduling problem. So while discussing these resource allocation algorithms, I will restrict my illustration example to a 4-node cluster. Okay, here as you can see here, I have taken 4-node cluster. The nodes are named as 1, 2, 3, 4. Those who don't understand what is cluster, cluster is nothing but a collection of homogeneous nodes, or you can say in a particular computer science lab, there are 4 computers are there and they are connected to each other through a local area network, or let's say system area network, or any kind of interconnection network. So they are connected. Why they are connected? Because they can share the resources with each other. Whatever resources are there, these resources can be shared. Sometimes this computer is overloaded, it can share its loads to the second computer. If second computer is overloaded and first computer is underloaded, then they can share the resources. Similarly, one can share with third computer system, third can share with the first computer system, 1 with 4, any combination is possible. So we restrict the solutions, okay, whatever we are discussing here, to a 4-node cluster, so that you will understand how these resource allocation algorithms are applied in the cloud computing, right? So these each and every row is represent the node, and each and x-axis represent the time. Time means we will start. Suppose today, now I will start as a cloud service provider. I will specify the starting time is 9 a.m. So I'll check whether any request is received to the to my queue, that is as a cloud service provider, whether any request is reached to me or not. If it is received at 9 a.m., then I'll try to schedule it. Okay. Once it is over, I will check if multiple requests are there. So I will try to accommodate them in the form of 4-node cluster. Although 4-node cluster is a very small thing, but illustration purpose I have taken 4-node cluster, right? So the timeline will go like this: 9 a.m., 10 a.m., let's say 11, 12 noon, right? 1 a.m., okay, 2 a.m., and finally let's say 3 p.m., 1 p.m., 12 noon, 1 a.m., so 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and 3 p.m. like that it will go on, right? So at any particular time, not necessarily at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., in each and every minute, in fact you can say each and every second, you have to check that in your queue how many leases are there. Okay, if there is a single lease, then there is no problem. If there is multiple leases there, then you have to decide that how many leases you can accommodate based upon your availability of resources, right? You have 4-node cluster. So at any cost, if a particular lease is coming, let's say the lease ID is L101, L101 is asking you a 5-node cluster. Okay, it is asking a 5-node cluster. But what is the maximum resources you have as a cloud service provider? You have a 4-node cluster. So you cannot accommodate this request. You have to simply reject it, right? If somebody asks you about 3 resources, right? 3 resources. But at the same time, already 2 resources are booked by other leases. So what you have to do? You have to reject this request, right? So before accepting any request, you have to confirm that whether these leases, if you accept, before its deadline, you are able to complete that request or not. If you are not able to complete, don't accept these leases, because otherwise you will violate the service level agreement. If you are violating the service level agreement as a cloud service provider, okay, you have to pay to your customer. Okay, otherwise the customer will go to legal proceedings, right? It may claim, because you have signed a service level agreement in which everything is mentioned, right? So let us see what kind of leases it may be, right? First type of lease is called as your advanced reservation lease, right? Advanced reservation lease, if you want to, whenever you have decided as a customer, you want to subscribe, okay, some resources in the cloud from the cloud service provider, you have to decide in which lease you need to deploy in the cloud service provider, right? In which mode you want the resources from the cloud service provider, because there are several modes are there. Like whatever Flipkart is asking to cloud service provider, right? That much resources is not required for to a common user, right? So you have to decide. You have to decide that which mode will be beneficial to you with respect to the mode, with respect to the lease. Okay, your cost is different, right? All the leases are not having the same cost. Some leases is costly, some leases are cheap based upon the type of mode you have subscribed, or based on the urgency of the resources you have to take, right? For example, whenever you are talking about the first lease, that is the mode is called as your advanced reservation. Advanced reservation mode. What you have to do, I told you in previous lecture also, in advanced reservation is same as a railway ticket. Railway, you have booked 2 AC coach, let's say in 2 AC you have booked a particular ticket, right? So whenever you are booking your ticket, you have to select a from station, you have to specify a to station in a particular date, right? You are going to book a ticket. For example, you booked a ticket from station to the to station, okay, from to station, and you know that in a source station the train is reaching at 1 p.m. and it is expected to reach the destination at 2 p.m. right? You know that what is the arrival in your source station and what is the time it will reach in the destination station, right? For which you have booked your tickets. In this case, if you see, I want 3 tickets in a train, okay? Out of the 4 availability, I need 3 resources, right? Total 4 tickets are available, but I need 3 resources. 3 tickets in this case, right? So if you are going for advanced reservation lease, you have to specify the start time, you have to specify the end time. If not, you have to specify the start time, you have to specify the duration, so anybody can add the start time and your duration, okay, the time period, in order to calculate the end time, okay. So this advanced reservation lease is the higher priority among all the leases. It is having higher priority. Once you accepted that, you will give the resources from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. You have decided that 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. 3 node resources will be given to the cloud customer at any cost. You should not differ from this particular statement, because it will be recorded in the service level agreement, right? So once you confirm these resources at any cost, if any other customer is coming, he is saying he offered in $100, I will offer the same thing in $200. You print their job, you cancel their job, you execute my job, I will give more money. You cannot do it, right? Once you confirm, you are bound to do the work, okay? So whenever there is a lease about advance reservation, you have to specify the start time and end time, or you have to specify the start time and duration, so that you can calculate the end time, right? And one advance reservation lease cannot print another advance reservation lease. Suppose another advance reservation lease is coming, which is going to which needs, let's say, 4 resources, for which it is going to give you $1,000. Okay, yes, this lease is also an advance reservation lease. The earlier lease submitted by another customer is also an advance reservation lease. So this newly arrived advance reservation lease cannot preempt the previous advance reservation lease. Okay, you may abort it, right? You may abort it, or you can reject this request by saying resources are not sufficient. Sufficient resources are not available. Right? This is called your advance reservation list. As it is more stricter, people have devised another type of lease that is called as your best effort lease. Just like you have booked a ticket, general ticket in a train. Okay, you reach to a particular station, you don't know what is the next train. So what you will do, you will simply book a ticket. Then you go to the platform. The train, whichever will come first, you are going to travel in that train without knowing the details of that particular train. That is same as the concept whatever used in the cloud, that is called as your best effort leases. Best effort leases, what you will do, you have to specify your requirement without any deadline, without any specification, without any restriction. For example, here I will specify, okay, I need a best effort lease. Okay, I need a best effort lease which require 1 hour of time. Like previous case you have seen, advanced reservation lease case also, we started at 13, that is 1 p.m. and we are closing at 14. Right? So in this case, what we are doing, in this best effort lease case, without specifying any time, I am just saying I need a 1 hour resources. Okay, and these 1 hour resources, and I am also specifying I require a single node. Right? But at what time the cloud service provider is going to provide me this 1 hour, I don't know. Suppose my lease is reached to the cloud service provider at morning 9 a.m. and 9 a.m. the resources are available, then the cloud service provider can deliver the resources from 9 to 10. If resources is preoccupied up to, let's say, evening 4, then it will assign me from 4 to 5. Like that it will go on. As soon as the resource become available, the cloud service provider is going to serve your leads. That's why there is no specific start time, there is no specific end time in this particular leads. Sometimes what happens, the resources is available at 4, you have started executing at 4, you continue up to, let's say, 4:25, means 25 minutes. After this time, the lease is printed, means your lease is whatever things it is given, like 1 hour, one node resources is given to you. Due to arrival of higher priority processes, your job is aborted. Okay, but at 5:30 or 5:25, the resources again become available. So same best effort leases can be resumed and it will continue up to 6. So see here the cloud service provider has given 25 minutes. Here the cloud service provider has 35 minutes. Overall together your 1 hour resources is given by the cloud service provider. So such type of nature is called as your primitive best effort leases. Not necessarily there is a single preemption. There may be a multiple preemption also. For example, 4 to 4:10. Okay, you will start at 4 and printed at 4:10. You started at 5:20. Okay, it will continue up to, let's say, 5:30. Okay, another 10 minutes. Then it will start at 7. It will continue up to 7:30. Right, again 30 minutes. Okay, we left with another 10 minutes. It is giving at 10:10 to 10:20. Okay, 20. Yes. So this is a 10-minute slot, right? This is also a 10-minute slot. This is a 30-minute slot, and this is another 10-minute slot. So by together, if you see, it is a 60-minute or 1 hour slot, right? So together you have fulfilled the request, but that is allowed if it is a primitive best effort leases. In order to avoid such preemption, we are doing preemption here, one preemption, second preemption, third preemption. In order to avoid that, few cloud service provider provided the resources in the non-primitive mode. Non-primitive mode says once the resource is assigned at 4, it will continue up to 5. So in between, if there is any high priority request is coming, you have to abort the high priority processes. You should not abort the best effort leads. That is called as non-primitive. Once you started, if you have not started, then it is okay. But if you have started you are bound to complete that request without any preemption. In order to avoid such preemptions, what happened in this scenario, right? So it is assured that once the lease is started at 4, it is expected to complete at 5. So that is called as your best effort lease. Is there any question? Okay. Next, coming to the comparison of the advanced reservation lease with the best effort lease, right? Advanced reservation lease is, I told you, this AR lease is having highest priority, best effort leases is having lower priority. So if it is a primitive, this is a primitive best effort lease, this is a primitive best effort lease, then only you can print. If it is not a primitive best effort lease, then you cannot print it, right? If it is a non-primitive, then it is not possible to see a scenario like this. So what happened here? I have started a best effort lease here, that is called as primitive best effort lease. After executing for few minutes, another advanced reservation lease is reached to the system. Okay, or once you start your execution, one advanced reservation lease has started, requested to the cloud service provider. You have started at, let's say, 9 a.m. Okay, another advanced reservation request is initiated at 9:10 a.m. Okay, it is requesting the cloud service provider to start at 9:30 and complete by 10:30. Okay, so what you will do? You will execute up to 9:30. After 9:30, you know that advanced reservation lease is having higher priority than the primitive best effort lease. So what we are doing, we are permitting the best effort lease, starting the advanced reservation lease, and we are resuming the best effort lease once the advanced reservation lease is successfully completed. It may happen that another advanced reservation lease is requested at 10:30, which may defer the rest of the work of the best effort lease, right? So it is possible only if it is a primitive based effort. If it is a non-primitive based effort, then this scenario will not be solved. You are bound to reject the advanced reservation lease. You have to complete the work of the best effort lease. Many cloud service providers also suggested that if a best effort lease is printed from a particular node, it should be resumed in that particular node only. It should be executed in that particular node only. What is the reason? Because the temporary files or the partial results, whatever available for this best effort lease, that is available in node 1 only. So if you are starting the best effort lease, let's say in the node 2 or node 3 or node 4, then what you have to do? Node 1 need to transfer the data to node 2, or you have to transfer data to node 3, or you have to transfer the data to node 4, which will take time. That's why it is suggested that once a best effort leases is printed from a particular node, it should be resumed in that particular node only, so that the temporary files, whatever there in the form of these images, that should not be transferred to other nodes, which will unnecessarily delay the process, right? Coming back to the third lease, that is called as your immediate lease. Try to understand the difference between the advanced reservation lease, another is called as your immediate lease. I am writing IM is immediate lease. Advanced reservation lease is reached to a particular cloud service provider, okay, let's say at 9:10 a.m. Sorry, 9:10 a.m. It is reaching to a particular cloud service provider at 9:10 a.m. but it requested a slot between 9:30 to 10:30. So what I can say, the arrival time of this advanced reservation lease is 9:10, but its start time is 9:30. This is your arrival time, 80, arrival time. Arrival time may not equal to the start time. I have booked the train ticket. Today I can book the ticket, I can travel day after tomorrow. There is no issue. Similar thing, I can book the resources in the cloud prior to using it. That's why my arrival time and start time is different. But whenever you go for immediate lease, the arrival time is same as your start time. Just like your current reservation. In train, you know that something called current reservation. You want to travel, at the same time you want to book. So most of the immediate leases are rejected. Like you know that current availability is less probability. Okay? Because if you want to travel to a long distance, then getting a current reservation ticket is very difficult. Okay? So immediate leases reach to a particular cloud service provider, and it asks the cloud service provider, if you are going to accept this lease, you have to immediately start these leases. You should not delay. There should not be any delay. There may be a minor delay in setup, like some 1 minute or 5 minutes of time for setup, but it should not be delay the process. It will not say that my resources are busy, so you wait for 30 minutes, then we'll start. Such things will not happen. If such things will be there, then you will say that this lease I cannot accept it. My resources is busy, so I cannot accept your request. So that leases is called as your immediate lease, right? Coming back to the fourth one is called as your deadline sensitive lease. So what happened? Whether it is a best effort, is I told you two types. Best effort may be primitive best effort, or it may be non-primitive best effort. If it is a primitive based effort, you can print multiple times. If it is non-primitive based effort, once it starts, you should not print it. You may delay its execution, but once it starts, you should not print it. So now I am telling you another thing that is called as deadline sensitive lease, which is an improved version of this primitive based effort and non-primitive based effort. Whether it is a primitive based effort or non-primitive based effort, there is no deadline. There is no deadline fixed for that one. But whenever you go for deadline sensitive lease, it takes the properties of based effort, plus it is taking another property that is called your deadline. Okay, deadline. What it is saying? You go for primitive mode or non-primitive mode, I don't have any objection, but it needs to be complete in a particular deadline. For example, at 9 a.m., I requested a particular cloud service provider to deliver me 1 hour slot and 1 node slot, okay, for 1 hour. Right? I requested at 9 a.m., I require 1 node slot for 1 hour. And I fixed a particular deadline. I require the resources from 10 p.m. Before 10 p.m. My deadline is 10 p.m. So the cloud service provider may give 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It may give 9:30 to 10:30. It may give you 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. or at the last case, it should give you 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Otherwise, it will violate the service level agreement. So what we are doing here? Generally, in the start of the lease, what we are saying, as soon as resource become available, that is nothing but the statement of the best effort lease. As soon as the resource is available, that resource will be delivered to you. But at the same time, what we are saying, as long as my lease does not start or end any later than the deadline. So you have to mention a deadline. Again, this deadline may be different type. You may interpret this deadline in a various way. One person can say that this deadline is nothing but the minimum time, or you can say maximum time where you can defer the execution of a particular work. For example, in this case, I need my work before 10 p.m. So I have specified the deadline as 9 p.m. So 9 p.m. is the last time to start the work. Once you have reached 9 p.m., you are bound to start my work because I need the work at 10 p.m. So in that case, I am specifying a particular time. Before that particular time, you need to execute the task. Another case, instead of mentioning 9 p.m., I am directly mentioning 10 p.m. I am saying that before 10 p.m. you have to complete it. That's why it is written, does not start or end. Here I am specifying the start time. The minimum start time is 9 p.m. Here I am specifying the minimum end time is 10 p.m. Right? So such leases are called as your deadline sensitive leases. which is an advanced version of the best effort lease by adding the deadline features. Right? Next one. Next is a very interesting lease which happens in the real life also. See, these examples are more or less related to our real life example. Whenever we go to a particular market, what we are saying? What we are saying? That we are doing the bargaining, right? Whenever you go for a particular market, if a shop owner is saying this thing is 100 rupees, we are saying no, give in 80 rupees, right? Such bargaining or such negotiation is also there in cloud computing, right? So what kind of negotiation is going on, that is very much important. For example, one customer requested cloud service provider some resources. Let's say I require 2 hour a one node resources. I require a one node resources for 2 hours, right? And requested, I have committed cloud service provider, if you do my work, then I will give $100, but you need to start the work immediately. But what happened? The cloud service provider has seen that all the resources of the provider is busy. Cloud service providers, all the resources with this 4 node cluster is busy. So what it will say? I cannot serve with your request now. So why not you defer? Why not you take me some time? Give me some time. Why not you defer your deadline? So that the same 2 hour and 1 node slot will be given to you by cutting 50% discount, that you have to pay only $50, right? Similar case, you can say cloud service provider at this particular time, it also seen that whatever resources are there, that is expected to complete, but that is not completed. So it may request the customer, I am giving another 50% discount, that is $25, okay, and I will give you a 2 hour 1 node slot after some time. So this is a negotiation going on. It is reducing, because if it will not reduce the cost, then the customer will say that you have violated my service level agreement. So it is convincing the customer, right? Similarly, it will say that you can wait for some amount of time, then I will give, let's say instead of 2 hour 1 node resources, I will give you a 4 hour 2 node resources, 4 hour 2 node resources, and you pay me only $10. Like many mobile providers are there in early days. Nowadays, unlimited plans are there. Many mobile providers are there. They are giving unlimited services in the night time. They know that their bandwidth is not properly consumed in between 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. So what they are doing? They are offering free connections. You can talk any time, because at that time nobody is using the bandwidth. So you recharge 7 rupees for 1 month. You can talk unlimited from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Right? So such type of negotiation leases are also there. So while you are negotiating, you are not only cutting the cost, you are also increasing the resources. You know that in night time some resources are not available, so you are saying, okay, I will, instead of 2 hours, you take 4 hours, instead of 1 more, you take 2 more, and you also give me less price. You don't know, there is no issue, like what mobile providers did in early days, right? Such type of lease is called your negotiated lease, right? Similarly, there are a lot of leases are there. So which cloud service provider uses which type of lease, that is very much important. So there are various toolkits are all there, or cloud service provider is there. One of the popular cloud service provider is Amazon EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. Amazon EC2 uses the concept of best effort lease. Next is Nimbus Cloud, uses immediate lease, right? All the leases are treated as your immediate lease. Eucalyptus is an infrastructure as a service provider. It is also taking the allocation policies, that is called immediate allocation policies. Open Nebula is another cloud service provider which is providing best effort lease. But Hygia is an open resource manager. You can also download this Hygia for your computer system. You can run these leases in the Hygia also. So you can refer this HiGear tool to your student, MTech student and BTech student, so that they will start working in this HiGear open source resource manager. So HiGear reports three different leases, which we discussed, that is advanced reservation lease, best effort lead, and immediate lease. In fact, the resource community uses HiGear, and HiGear is completely open source, and it has also some base algorithms in which you can modify your work. Okay, you can modify the base algorithm in order to devise your new algorithms, right? So IGA has a base algorithm. You can modify that code. You can add new leases also, and you can run your simulation. You can compare with the base algorithms. And it is also one of the resource manager which supports multiple types of leases, like I mentioned here, AR, PE, and immediate. Three leases are supported by HiGear, but other cloud service providers are not supporting different leases, right? Now, coming to the application. Now, I hope the lease concept is clear to you. Application, I told you, application is nothing but a directed acyclic graph. So you know this is a directed acyclic graph. What it says? What it says? The root node need to be executed first. Once the root node is completed, then you can start the task B, C, and D simultaneously. Suppose I have one processor system. I can execute A now. So once A is completed, I have to decide among B, C, D, which order I need to process first. Somebody will say that I will follow the order BCD. Somebody will say that no, I will go for CDB. Somebody will say that I will go for DBC. Something like that. There are a number of orderings are there. Okay. So suppose I have decided I will go for the order, alphabetical order, that is I will execute B. Once B is completed, then only I will start C. Once C is completed, then I will start the D. Like that it is going on. So if a single processor is there, if you change the order also, the execution time, the finish time of all the tasks is same. You have seen this thing in operating system scheduling. You change any order, okay, by giving respect to the dependency, okay, you should not violate the dependency. You will see the end time is same because you are dealing with a single processor system. But whenever you go for a multiprocessor system, what you can see, suppose I have 3 processors, so I can run A. I told you you can create the replica of A in other processors also. Once A is completed, then I can start B, C, D simultaneously, right? Once B and C is completed, then if B is completed here and C is completed here, then I can start E here, right? And once C is completed and let's say D is completed at the same time, then I can start F here. So while a customer is deploying any kind of application, you have to ensure that how many processor is sufficient to execute that application. For example, in this case, instead of using 3 processor, if I will go for 10 processor, then the performance will not be improved. The performance will not be improved. Why? Because the maximum width of this particular application is only 3. Right? And as there is a dependency, it is not possible that EF will be simultaneously executed with BCD. Right? So there is a law that is called as Amdahl's law. Right? Amdahl's law is there in cloud computing. It is not in cloud computing, it is there in the computer organization. It says that you have to find what is the minimum number of processors, okay, is sufficient to execute a particular application, right? So this is your applications. Whenever we are talking about the application, each and application has a particular ID. This ID is given by the cloud service provider, and whenever this application is reached to the cloud service provider, that is treated as your arrival time. And we assume that this arrival time is same as your start time, or we consider as a start time in order to start this application in the cloud, right? So this is all about your application. So whenever you see the real life applications, One is called your montage application. If you see the width of this application is 6, so you require maximum 6 processor here. Here the width is 4, right? So you can take 4 processor. If you see in this case, the width is, let's say, maximum of 8. I'm not going to the connections, overally I'm telling, right? It may require less processors also. I'm assuming that here 4 nodes are there, here 4 nodes are there. Okay, so total 8 processors are there. So I told you in previous lecture also, while you are concentrating on Montage, Montage belongs to your astronomy project, epigenomics belongs to your biology project, SIPST belongs to your biology project. These are the real life projects. These are not manual project, or you can say synthetic project. These are benchmark projects. So while you want to simulate any work, you can take a particular application. You know the depth of the workflow. This application is also called as your workflow. Okay, because workflow is nothing but a group of tasks, and their order is specified here. So you have to concentrate on the depth of the application. You have to concentrate on the width of the application, depth and width of the applications. You have to specify the computation time. Computation is the time which we need to mention inside a particular node, or you can say once you execute a particular node, whatever works is there in the inside that particular node, how much time it is taking. That is called your computation time. It is in the range of, let's say, 52, let's say you are specifying 50 to 100 second, right? And there is a communication time between two different nodes, that also you need to specify communication time. Okay, let's say it is in between 10 to 20 seconds. So if you take a benchmark workflow and if you specify these parameters, then you can generate a computation time matrix. It will be generated randomly because you have specified a particular range, 50 to 100 seconds. And you have to specify the communication time. So one communication time matrix is also generated. Somebody told me also in the last class how we are going to implement it. So see this, I am taking a very small example. So in data structure, you know, there is something called urgency matrix. So I am taking a urgency matrix. You can also take urgency list also. I am specifying A here, B, C, D, and E. I have 5 tasks. Similarly, I can take the same 5 tasks in the column. Okay. So I am specifying A is the root task. So A is not dependent on other tasks. So I am putting 0 in A. 0 indicates that excuse me, 0 indicates that A is not dependent on each other, dependent in any other task, right? B is dependent on A, that's why I am putting 1 here. B is dependent on A and B is not dependent on other, right? Similarly, C is dependent on A, not dependent on others. D is dependent on A, okay, it is not dependent on other. Okay, I have missed another task, that is F task. Okay, I am writing here. Okay, I am writing F here. Okay, so A is not dependent on F, B is not dependent on F, C is not dependent, D is not dependent on F, right? F, E is dependent on whom? E is dependent on 2 tasks, B and C. That's why I am putting BC is 1, rest is I am putting 0. F is dependent on C and D, so I am putting 1 and I am putting 0 in rest of the places, right? So in order to implement this application, what you will do, you have to find a particular row in which all zeros are there. I am searching the first row, checking whether all the values are 0 or not. Yes, it is 0. But if you see other rows, all the values are not 0. It indicates that A is eligible to execute now, or A is not dependent on other. Once A is successfully scheduled, what I will do, I will replace all the values of that are present in the column of A to 0. So I will put this value as 0. I will replace this value as 0. I will replace this value of 0. What it indicates? Then I'll search again that which row is 0. So again the first row will come. That's why what I'll do, after doing so, I have to replace all the values 0 because A is successfully implemented. Okay, so I'll replace it by a negative number, let's say -1. Right? So what will happen? So it is replaced by -1. This one is replaced by -1. Next, whenever I am searching a complete row is 0, A will not come. Now that you see in B and C and D is having a complete 0. Now they are eligible to execute in the cloud. In this manner, you have to decide which application, which task of the application need to be executed. Right? This is the implementation process. You can do simply in C programming and C++ programming, Python programming, or whatever language you know, Java or whatever language, Ruby or whatever you know, you can implement this application. Similarly, there is two other applications are also there. LIGO is another application which belongs to the gravitational physics projects. CyberSec belongs to earthquake science project. So you have to generate these metrics by following this physical structure. Okay, this is the structure, or many people specify it is a structure ever scheduling. You look the structure, based upon that you design a particular algorithm. One algorithm may be based in the LIGO, but that the same algorithm may not run well in the CyberSec because that is a structure ever algorithm. Okay, you are not generalizing it, right? Now coming to the third one, task. Task is of two types. One is your independent task. Independent task means if you have a 10 task, you can find any order. Any order is fine, they can execute. Or the task may be a dependent task. If it is an independent task, we represent it by a matrix. We are taking rows and columns and we are representing in the form of a matrix. Okay. If it is a dependent task, what we have discussed, that is dependent task is also called as your workflow or called as your applications. So you know how we did. We have used directed acyclic graph or adjacency matrix or adjacency list in order to execute it. If the task is independent task, we call that task as a meta task. Independent tasks are called as your meta task. If the tasks are independent, then what you can do? You can execute it online by following the immediate mode. As soon as the cloud service provider is receiving that task, it needs to schedule it, just like immediately, or it may be go for the batch mode, which is called as your offline mode. In batch mode, what you will do? You have to keep the task in a particular queue. Once the queue is filled with the task, then only you will perform the scheduling. Or you will wait for some time. You wait for 1 hour, whatever task is there, then you perform a particular scheduling. That is called as your offline scheduling. Irrespective of the independent task or dependent task, there is a mapping process. The mapping process says it is a two-step process. What you have to do, you have a set of tasks T1, T2, let's say T3. Similarly, you have T3 or T4. Let's say 4 tasks are there. You have 2 resources, R1 and R2. So first step is you have to do the matching process. You will match T1 with R1 and T1 with R2. Then you decide whether to execute in R1 or R2. Scheduling process, what you have to do? Once you finalize the order, let I have decided T1 need to be executed in R1, T2 need to be executed in R2, T3 need to be executed in R2, T4 need to be executed in R1. Once I have decided this, what I have to do? I have to execute it. That is called as the process of scheduling. So the mapping process is divided into 2 processes. First you will match. Once a successful match is found, or based upon your requirement, if a particular match is found, then you will perform the scheduling in the second step. So mapping of these independent tasks, or which we call as a meta task, onto a heterogeneous computing. Heterogeneous computing means in which the nodes behave differently. The nodes are not behaving similarly, identically, or their behavior is not same. Okay, is a well-known NP-complete problem. You know that NP-complete problems are very much important in computer science. As the main idea is that throughput is the optimization criteria. As throughput is the optimization criteria, So this this is a NP complete problem, so that you can develop heuristics for this particular problem. You can define some heuristic, or you can use some meta heuristic approaches like genetic algorithm, particle swarm optimization, and colony optimization, teaching learning based algorithm, Jaya algorithm in order to do it. And this problem is a very well known NP complete problem since, you can say, 1977. This problem is called as your NP complete problem, right? Scheduling problem is called as your NP complete problem. Now, how to mapping these tasks? For example, I have taken in this slide, I have taken 4 tasks and I have taken 2 resources. Total 4 tasks I have taken, 2 resources I have taken. Okay, I am assuming that each task has 2 different properties. One property is called as your volume of instruction. Second property is your volume of data. Okay, you know that whenever you are executing a microprocessor instructions, you know each and every instruction is taking some space, right? 1 byte instruction or 2 byte or 3 byte instruction. Similarly, each and every instruction also takes some data. In the similar line, you can see that volume of we are taking volume of instruction and volume of data for task. And as this task need to be executed in the resources, resources can execute these instructions as per their processing speed, and resources can also execute and can process the data based upon their related bandwidth. Okay, so one side you have a set of tasks, another side you have a set of resources, and you have to map a task with resources. For example, I want to assign the task T1 to resource R1. Task T1 has 200 volume of instructions which need to be executed in a processor having 100 MIPS. Plus, task 1 is having 20 MB of data, and the bandwidth of the resource 1, related bandwidth, is 10. So if you calculate it, you will get the value as 4. That's why the expected time to execute the task T1 in resource R1 is 4. Similarly, if you go for task T1 with R2, what I can say? 200 million instructions need to be executed in 200 million instructions per second. I'm taking T1 with R2. 200 million instructions need to be executed in a 200 MIPS machine. Its data is 20 MB and related bandwidth is 5. So if you calculate it, you will get the value as 5, which I have written here. It indicates that whenever T1 is executed in R2, the value is 5. Okay. Similarly, you can calculate T2 in R1, T2 in R2, T3 in R1, T3 in R2, T4 in R1, T4 in R2. Right? So whenever you are talking about this particular matrix between the task and resources, you can say these task and resources matrices may be of various types. One type is called as a consistent type, another is called as an inconsistent type, another is called as a semi-consistent type. Consistent type of matrix looks like this one. If you see, one side I have taken your task that I have represented by here U1, U2, U3, that is user task or user request. Another side I am taking resource 1 to resource M. If you see, irrespective of the task, first resource is performing well in comparison to other resources. First resource is busy for 10 units of time, taking 10 units of time for U1, but other resources are taking more time. U2 is taking 41 millisecond or 41 second in R1, but it is taking more time in other resources. So irrespective of the user request, R1 is always the best one, R2 is the second best one, RM is the last one. So this matrix is called as your consistent matrix. But this peculiarity is not there in the second matrix, which we call as an inconsistent matrix. So as you can see here, first task is based in resource 1, second task is based in the last machine, last task is based in the resource 2. So you cannot predict that which resource is best for you. That is called as your inconsistent matrix. Coming to the next one, that is called a semi-consistent matrix. It is a special type of inconsistent matrix, okay, in which you can say this complete matrix is inconsistent, but if you take a sub-matrix, subset of the matrix that is consistent, then you can take that matrix is called as a semi-consistent matrix, right? Now, coming back to the resource our second discussion, that is the resource allocation algorithm. So the problem of resource allocation algorithm is you are given with a set of leads, right? And each and every lead is having a arrival time. Each lead is assigned with a ID. Okay. Each lead is having a arrival time, start time, deadline, period in which it you want to execute in the cloud service provider, and how many nodes are required for that particular lead, right? So one side what you have, one side you have a set of leases, another side, one side you have a set of leases, another side you have a set of resources. What is the objective? Your objective is to assign the leases to a set of resources, right? Just like a bipartite graph you have seen in mathematics, right? What is the objective? I have to try to accommodate as much as leads possible. That's why I mentioned the main objective is to the leads rejection should be minimized. The number of leads rejected, it should be minimized. So this is the resource allocation problem. Okay, see this one. This is a numerical example. You have total number of leases is 7. I have taken 7 leases. Each and every leases having a arrival time, start time, deadline, okay, and it requires some period of execution within the start time and deadline, and the number of nodes. For example, lead 1 is arrived to the system at 8:30 a.m. It needs a resources from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. It is requesting the resource from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. means it is a 1 hour 30 minute slot. Out of this 1 hour 30 minutes, 1 hour 30 minutes means 90 minute slot. Out of 90 minute slot, it is asking you a 40 minute slot. Out of 90 minute slot, it is asking you a 40 minute slot, and these 40 minute slot, it requires only one node. It is asking one node 40 minute slot, right? Similarly, if you see L6 is reaching your system at 9:30. It needs to start at 10 a.m. It needs to complete. It is giving you a duration from 10 to 10:50. Means it is a 50 minute slot. Okay, it is 50 minute duration. It is giving to you. Out of this 50 minutes, it requires only 30 minutes. Okay, it is giving you a timeline of 50 minutes, but it is requesting you a 30 minute slot, right? For one node only, one node only. So this is a typical example of your resource allocation. Let us see how to apply the resource allocation algorithm in these leases. First algorithm, I'll discuss 3 algorithms. First algorithm is the base algorithm what is defined in Hygeia. What Hygeia says? Hygeia says that once a lease is received by a cloud service provider, what this cloud service provider will do, or what the resource manager will do, it will find a single time slot in order to fulfill the work. For example, if you see here 9 to 10:30 means it is a 90 minute slot. In this 90 minute slot, I have to find a 40 minute slot, right? And that should be a single time slot. I cannot split into 20 minutes, 20 minutes, as I discussed in the BEAR leases, right? While I'm comparing BEAR, I told you, you can print the best effort list, you can start AR, again you can resume best effort. Okay. So if single time slot is not sufficient, what you can do, you have to perform the scheduling. How to perform the scheduling? You have to perform the scheduling that we call as rescheduling. Okay. Rescheduling by sorting the leases based upon the slack value. You have to determine the slack value. I'll tell you how to calculate the slack value. After calculating the slack value, you have to sort the leases in the increasing order of the slack value. And one of the enhancement you can suggest, Instead of rigid about single time slot, one can prefer several time slot. I will not go for a single time slot, I will go for several time slot. Okay. Now come to this example. I have taken 5 leases. I am not taking more leases, right? I have 7 leases example also, right? Well, I am taking 5 leases. In these 5 leases, what I will do? Lease 1 require between the 12 means this is the time at 12 to 13:20, that is 120 I have mentioned here. I require a lease 1 require 40 minutes and it is a 2 node slot. So I have assigned 12 to 12:40. I am assuming that my 4 node cluster is completely free. So I am assigning 40 minute slot here. Okay, lease 1 require only 40 minutes. Out of how many minutes? 60 plus 20. 12 to 13 is 60 minutes plus 20, 80 minutes. Out of these 80 minutes, I require only 40 minutes, but that to be 2 node slot. That's why I am assigned node 3, node 4. One may assign node 1, node 2 also, no problem. You can assign in any order. Then lease 2 require same 12 to 13:20 in 80 minute slot. It required 20 minutes, but it required 3 node slot. So as 2 node is only available here, I cannot accommodate L2 in between 12 to 12:40. So what I will do? I will start at 12:40. I will capture a 3 node slot for 20 minutes, so that 12:40 plus 20 it will complete by 1. Coming to the lease number 3. Lease number 3 is requesting in between 12 to 13:20, but require 20 minute slot, but it require 4 node slot. 4 node slot for 20 minutes. 4 node slot is not available in here, not available here. So I am starting at 1. I am meeting exactly at the deadline, that is 120, and that is a 4 node slot, and I am giving you 20 minutes. L3 is satisfied. But whenever L4 is coming, L4 is asking from 12:30 to 120. It is asking a 40 minute slot, 1 hour node slot, 1 hour 40 minute slot. In 1 node 40 minute slot. It need 1 node but 40 minutes. So 1 node slot is available here. 12:30 to 1 node slot is available. This part. But what is the duration between 12:30 to 1? Only 30 minutes. What is his requirement? 40 minutes. I cannot accommodate it. L4 cannot be accommodated. So what Hygeia told, if you cannot accommodate in a single time slot, what you will do? You will perform rescheduling. How to perform this rescheduling? You can perform the rescheduling by applying this concept, that is sorting the leases based on the slack value. So what I need to calculate? I have to calculate the slack value of already executed leases or already scheduled the leases. For example, in this case, L1, L2, L3, these 3 leases are already scheduled. So I have to calculate the slack value. How to calculate slack value? Slack value is nothing but you have to find deadline D, deadline minus start time divided by your period. For example, for the first task, what is your deadline? The deadline is 13:20. Your start time is 12 divided by your period is nothing but 40. So what is the value you will get here? 13:20 to 12, you will get 80 divided by 40. Okay, which is equal to 2. So the slack value is 2. Similarly, if you calculate for L2, it is 80 divided by 20, it is 4. It is also 80 divided by 20, it is 4. And you have to arrange the already executed leases in the increasing order. That is L1, L2, L3. Okay, it is already there in the increasing order. If you see, it is already there in the increasing order. So this concept is failed here. With this concept, even if you do the rescheduling, you will find the same sequence L1, L2, L3. So what you can do, L4, L5 you have to reject, and you have to declare that out of these 5 leases you can accommodate only 3 leases. You cannot accommodate all the 5 leases, right? So this is the first algorithm proposed by Hygeia. This is the example with 7 leases. As time restriction is there, I am not going to it. I am giving another illustration of IGA. You can go through it in your leisure time. Coming back to the second algorithm. Second algorithm is called as DPS algorithm. DPS algorithm says that why to calculate the slack value while doing the rescheduling. Don't calculate the slack value in the rescheduling. Better you calculate the slack value initially. Once you receive a release, you know the deadline, you know the start time, you know the denominator, that is your period. So you calculate the slack value. If the slack value is coming less than 1.1, then you simply reject it. For example, you see somebody requested in between 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It is a 1 hour duration. 1 hour duration is 60 minutes. So when you subtract 11 a.m. minus 10 a.m., you will get 60 minutes. But it is requesting 1 hour. It is giving you 1 hour period, and it is also asking you 60 minutes. So in the denominator part, you have also 60. Numerator part is 11 a.m. to 10 a.m. that is 60 minutes, and it is asking you the period of 60 minutes. So 60 divided by 60 is 1. So as your slack value is 1, right, and this condition is satisfied, right, 1 is less than equal to 1.1, you have to simply reject. You cannot execute this list because it is giving you the same period and same duration. If slack value is greater than your 1.1, what you have to do? Like Hygia, you have to find a single slot. But as suggested, the enhancement may be the multiple slot. If single slot is not there, then you find the multiple slot. If multiple time slot is not there, then you perform the rescheduling. But while performing rescheduling, what you can do? You have to sort the leases based upon the decreasing order of the node. Somebody requested 2 nodes, somebody requested 3 nodes, somebody requested 4 nodes. While you are performing rescheduling, you have to see 4 should come first, 3 should come second, 2 should come in the third. If it is not possible in the process of rescheduling, you can apply the backfilling approach. But they have not implemented the backfilling approach because it is too complex. If after backfilling also it is not possible, you simply reject the leases. Okay, let us see one example to clear our idea. So I am taking the same example. I have taken 5 leases. Okay, the same example. I have calculated the slack value. Slack values are greater than your 1.1. So I am performing the scheduling. So you know that while you are performing L1, L2, L3, like I mentioned in Hygia, it will come in this particular order, in which I am not able to accommodate L4. As I am not accommodating L4, what DPS algorithm told here? If single time slot is not there, go for multiple time slot. And if you go for multiple time slot is also not satisfied here. So what you have to do next? If multiple time slot is not there, then you have to perform rescheduling. Rescheduling means sort the leases based upon the decreasing order of n. So if you see, decreasing order of n means already L1, L2, L3 is scheduled, right? L1, L2, L3 is scheduled. While I am performing rescheduling, I have to arrange them in the decreasing order of n. If you go for decreasing order of n, then you will find the sequences L3, L2, L1, not L1, L2, L3, because L3 is 4, L2 is 3, L1 is 2. Okay, while you are making rescheduling, you have to ensure that this rescheduling should not make violation of any already assigned leases. So what I am doing, I am assigning printing L3, L2, L1, L1, L2, L3, and I am assigning in this order, that is L3 first, L2 second, L1 third. So after scheduling L3, L2, L1 order, instead of L1, L2, L3 order, I am accommodating L3, L2, L1 in the same manner without violating the deadline. Okay. Next, I am going to assign lease 4. Lease 4 require from 12:30 to 1:20. It require a 40-minute slot, and that to be one node slot for 40 minutes. So I can start at 12:30, I can finish at 1:10. As it is rescheduled, L3, L2, L1, L4 is now easily accommodated in the system. Similarly, L5 case, if you see, it required time from 12:40 to your 1. It required a 2 node slot for 10 unit of time, and 2 node slot for what 2 unit of time is available here. So now if you see, Hygia is accommodating 3 out of 5, but DPS is accommodating 5 by 5 by changing only the concept. Instead of taking the slack value in the rescheduling, it is taking the number of nodes in the rescheduling. Okay, this is the only difference between the Hygia algorithm and DPS algorithm. Okay. Third algorithm is alert time based algorithm. Here what happened? There is an improvement over DPS algorithm. What it says? It says that why not sort the leases based on the start time? You see, in the previous leases, start time of 3 leases is same. Start time of 3 leases is same. If start time of 3 leases are same, you are calculating the slack value, but you are following the same order. Or you are not looking into the number of nodes and you are assigning. Later point of time, if it is not possible, then you are looking into the number of nodes and you are doing the rescheduling. So why to go for such complexity? Why not sort the leases based upon the start time? If there is a same start time, you follow the number of nodes to sort the leases. So automatically L3 will come first, L2 will come second, L1 will come third. So sort the leases based on the start time and form group with the same start time leases. So it will form group of L1, L2, L3. L4 is having different start time, so it will be present in the second group. L5 is in having the third group because it is having another start time. So you see here, if you taken 7 leases, the first 4 leases is having the same start time. So they are grouped in a same group, G1. Next 2 leases is having the same start time, so they are present in group 2. Next leases is having a unique start time, 10:30, so it is in the group 3. Then it is saying determine the alert time. What is alert time? Alert time is the time, is nothing but you have to subtract the deadline minus period. Deadline is 10:30, period is 40. That means your lease need to be start at 9:50 in order to violate the deadline. Similarly, if you see here, your deadline is 10:50, but your period is 30. So 10:50 minus 30 is 10:20. So before 10:20, or exactly at 10:20, if you start, then only you can satisfy the lease number 6. That's why it is saying determine the alert time. Then it is saying assign the earliest alert time first. So in each and every group, like in the first 4, it belongs to the same group. You have calculated the alert time, right? And you see the earliest alert time is L1 and L4. So L1, L4 need to be executed first instead of in comparison to L2 and L3 because they have later alert time. And if there is a overlapping, like here 9:50, 9:50, there is a overlap, this gap, this break, okay, or this collide or this tie, you can break by looking into the number of nodes. The number of nodes taken by L4 is high, so it need to be executed first in comparison to L1, right? If there is a tie, then you can take maximum number of nodes in order to break the tie. Then what you have to do, if it is not practically possible, if you cannot accommodate newly arrived leases, then you can perform the rescheduling by applying a process of swapping. While you are performing the swapping, what you are doing, you are making 3 set of leases, 3 lease set. One is start time to alert time. Start time to alert time means 9 to 9:50. Another list you are making 9:50 to 10:30. Another list is the overall list, that is 9 to 10:30. 3 lists you are making, and you are comparing between 2 different lists, that is start time to alert time and alert time to deadline. Start time to alert time means start time to alert time is 9 to 9:50. Whatever leases are scheduled in between 9 to 9:50, that you have to keep in a lease set. Another one 9:50 to 10:30, you will keep in another lease set. and whatever these lease sets are there, you have to compare each other and perform the swapping approach. If it is not possible to accommodate using the swapping approach, then you have to apply the backfilling approach. But here also, they have not implemented the backfilling approach. And after backfilling also, if it is not practically possible, then what you have to do? You have to simply reject the lease. So if you go in this manner, you will find this particular sequence. You have to first execute L4, then execute L1, then your L2, then L3, then L5, L6 you have to compare. Earliest time is L6, so L6, then L5, then your L7. You have successfully accommodated 7 out of 7 leases in ALTRA. So what if you are developing algorithms for it? What kind of performance metrics you have to take? You have to take. There are 4 performance metrics are there that you have to concentrate. First one is you have to see that how many leases are accepted. Suppose you have given 7 leases, you have to see that out of 7 leases, how many leases are accepted. Second one, you have to decide how many leases are rejected. So accepted leases should be more, rejected leases should be less. And sum of accepted leases is rejected leases is nothing but your total number of leases. Third parameter is which lease insists you to rescheduling. So you have to calculate in your duration of resource allocation how many leases insist you to perform rescheduling. Whether rescheduling is done or not, that is different thing. But how many leases insist you to perform rescheduling? For example, in the hijack case, you know that whenever L4 came, okay, it is insisting L1, L2, L3 to perform rescheduling. But rescheduling is not successful because slack values are already there in the increasing order of they are already there in the increasing order, right? Similarly, you have to see that how many leases are rescheduled in the process of resource allocation. These 4 performance metrics you have to consider in order to perform the resource allocation. And there is a standard data set is there that is having 11 leases, 22 leases, 33 leases, 54 leases. This data set is available online. You can take these leases to check that whether you can develop a new algorithm and compare whether your new algorithm is better than these algorithms or not. Okay. Second algorithm is called as your fairness algorithm. Fairness algorithm, you know that AR leases is having more priority than the best effort lease. So AR lease is always printing the best effort lease. So there is no fairness. There is a question about fairness. If always AR leases will be there in the system, then best effort leases never start in a particular system. So it leads to no fairness. So what is the solution? One solution is you have to go for non-primitive best effort. So once a best effort will start execution, no AR task can print the best effort. That is the first solution. Second solution is you have to give priority to few best effort leases by rejecting the advanced reservation lease. Although you are getting maximum benefit in the advanced reservation lease, but you have to give priority to few best effort leases so that they will not face any kind of starvation. I will give a typical example. See here, best effort leases require 5 units of time. Okay, but at t is equal to 2, time is equal to 2, time is equal to 0, best effort leases require 5 units of time and there is no advanced reservation task. So what I did, I have started the best effort leases here. After executing 2 units of time, what happened? Another advanced reservation leases is reached to the system which need to be started at 2 and it requires 5 units of time. So I am printing this best effort lease BI. I am executing A, that is executing from 2 to 7. Once it is completed, the best advanced reservation is completed. The rest 3 units of best effort leases is resumed. Similarly, if you see in this example, the same best effort leases is printed here at this particular time. It is again printed due to arrival of another leases at 8 unit of time. Again printed here. Okay. Okay. So how many times it is printed? It is printed here and here. It is completed at this particular time. So every time what happened, this best effort leases is printed and advanced reservation is giving priority. AI is given priority here, AJ, AK, these are advanced reservation leases are given priority. So every time these best effort leases are suffering. So for which many researchers also provided few solutions. Right, this is the problem, and this is a illustration which you can apply. Okay, you can develop the algorithm so that you will make a proper fairness with the best effort leases. The next problem is called as posted price model. This posted price model is coming from one of the important concept, one of the important algorithm that is called as Hungary algorithm, which is available in mathematics. What it is saying, suppose I have 6 tasks and 6 resources. Total number of tasks is 6 and I have 6 resources, or I want to phase wise map. So you have to determine, just like ETC matrix I told you, if you assign T1 to C1, how much time it is taking. If you assign T1 to C2, how much time it is taking. T1, C3, how much time it is taking. Like that you have to generate the values. Right? Then you have to find an optimal assignment of each and every individual task to a particular cloud or particular resources. So here, number of tasks, the restriction is that the general level is number of tasks should be equal to number of resources while applying the Hungary algorithm. Later there is lot of improvements over the Hungary algorithm, but I am not going to that. So Hungary algorithm says that if you want to apply Hungary matrix in order to find a mapping function f in between the task set T to the cloud set C, what you have to do, you have to follow this particular procedure. The first procedure is what? You have to subtract the row minimum. Find the row minimum for T1. The row minimum is 0.23. So this 0.23 you have to subtract from each and every element of row 1. So it will result this value 0.44, 0.30, 0.15. This value is obviously 0 and rest value is like this. Like that, you take the minimum value of T2. T2's minimum value is 0. Okay, 0 means it is coming in millisecond, which is equal to 0. So you can subtract so that this value will be remains intact. Same thing. Here for T3, the minimum is 0.31. So you have to subtract 0.31 from each and every row. Like that, you have to process. This is the first step of Hungary algorithm. Second step is you have to find the column minimum. For example, I am finding the column minimum of C1. So obviously the column minimum is here 0, right? Because one value you got 0 in the row minimum case. So this value remains same. But if in a particular case, if the value is not 0, then the value will be changed. There are some cases are there where after applying row minimum, subtract minimum also will affect. So after finding the column minimum, like here that is 0, here also 0, here 0, here 0. So this matrix is the subtract row column minimum is same as this matrix, but it is not there in all the cases. So once you find this column minimum, you have to draw the minimum number of lines. Minimum number of lines to cover all the 0 element. To cover all the 0 element. For example, here the minimum number of lines to cover all the element is only 4. Only 4 lines are sufficient to do it. Then in the third step, you have to check that number of lines is equal to number of rows or not. So in this case, it is number of lines is 4, number of rows is 6. So what you will do? It is not equal. If it is not equal, then you have to find minimum uncovered element. So these are called as a covered element. The elements which is not covered, you have to find the minimum covered element. The minimum covered element is 0.08, 0.08. Here also 0.08. You have to calculate overall. So whatever minimum uncovered element you got, that minimum covered element you have to add with covered element. For example, the covered elements are here. So these are the covered elements. So here I will add 0.08. But if you see, there is some intersection point. If there is some intersection point, there I have to add it twice because that element is covered twice. So if you see here, in this case, I am adding 2 times 0.08. After this, What I have to do? This minimum element I have to subtract from the whole matrix. Okay. After subtracting from the whole matrix, I have to draw the minimum number of lines to cover all the zero element. If it is not, then you have to repeat this process. But luckily, what happened? After subtracting this 0.08 from entire matrix, what will happen? All the elements are covered. All the zero elements are covered, and number of lines is 6. And the number of rows is also 6. So this is the termination criteria. Until unless your number of lines is equal to number of rows, you should not stop. Then what you will do? If you mapping, this is the mapping, this is the optimal mapping, it will come. So for with respect to each and every cloud, you have one task is assigned. So this one here, one represents mapping of a particular task to a particular cloud. 0 indicates that task is not assigned, not going to assign to a particular cloud. So posted price model is also a very important concept which is used in the resource allocation algorithm. Next topic, I told you the task scheduling algorithm. What happened, in which you can go for centralized approach or distributed approach. In centralized approach, one user can request to a centralized system, and this request can be go to any particular cloud based upon whether a cloud is overloaded or underloaded, or whether the resources of the cloud is available or not. Okay, or this user can request to a particular cloud service provider. That cloud service provider can decompose the task into small parts and can divide the task into multiple cloud service provider so that the task can be executed in a minimum time. For example, this cloud kept A and D task, and it is sending the task to some other cloud. While you are sending some other cloud, this manager server should contact the manager server of other cloud in order to know that whether the resources is available in that cloud or not. Right? So here, people have considered the advanced reservation leases as well as the best effort leases. Right? For which they devised two algorithms, that is round robin algorithm, and another is a scheduling algorithm. That is called as list scheduling algorithm. You know, in round robin algorithm, after generating this ETC matrix, as I discussed how to generate the ETC matrix based upon the task feature and based upon the resource feature, what you can do, you can apply the round robin algorithm. Round robin says that if number of resources are 3, you can assign 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2. Once you change the application, you again start from beginning 1, 2, 3, 1. Here 1, 2, 3. In this manner, you can assign the resources to the cloud. Okay, so you can find this particular order. But here we are not taking care of this ETC matrix. That's why round robin is not performing well. But whenever you go for list scheduling algorithm, list scheduling says that you can see this particular time wherever you are getting minimum, you go for that particular cloud. For example, for task A, the first cloud is better because it is taking less time, so you assign the first cloud. The task L, the first cloud is better, you go for first cloud. Task D, the last one is better, cloud 3, so you go for cloud 3. So based upon that, you can perform the scheduling. The last part of our discussion is called as workflow scheduling. In workflow scheduling, what happens? You are given with a workflow or applications. Just I told you, you may have a Montes, you may have CPET, or you may have LIGO, you may have epigenomics. Many workflows are there. You have to generate the computation time, communication time. You have to specify the depth of the workflow. You have to specify the width of the workflow. In this task scheduling, if you see, I have written some values within the circle. That is called as your computation time. And while communicating between two different tasks, I have written one value in a rectangle, that is called as your communication time. Let us see how we can perform scheduling here. First one is called as your top level. T level says that you start, or it is also called as your ASAP, as soon as possible, which says that you start from your entry task. Entry task is obviously your root task, and go to any task. Suppose I am considering T1, so my entry task and current task is same. If I am concentrating T2, then I can say my entry task is T1, current task is T2. Then you calculate this T level. while you are calculating T level, you will take the computation time of entry task, but you will not take the computation time of given task. But you will take the entry task communication time, given task communication time. It may happen that multiple paths are exist between the entry task and given task. If multiple paths are exist, then you have to find the maximum path. For example, let us take T2. Okay, let us take T2, not let us take T3. Better T3 because T3 having multiple paths. So once you calculate, if you want to calculate the T level of task 3, so what you have to calculate? You have to take this time. This time is 5. Okay, 5. The communication time between T1 and T3 is 3. Okay, but you will not calculate the computation time of T3. So one value you will get, it is 8. Another path is possible from T1 to T3 via T2. So if you are going via T2, you have to calculate the path like this. 5 is for T1. Communication time from T1 to T2 is 4. Computation time of T2 is 7. Communication time of T2 to T3 is 12. But you will not consider the computation time of your current task, that is T3. How much you are getting? 12 plus 7 is 19. For flow is 23 plus 5 is 28. If multiple paths are exist, you have to choose the maximum path. So the T level for task T3 is 28. Like that you can calculate for other tasks. Coming to the bottom level and the previous level, T level, only difference is that there you are considering root task to the given task, but here we are concentrating the given task to the exit task. The reverse one, given task to the exit task. Another change is that here you are calculating the computation time of your exit task, but in the previous case you are not calculating. Let us take an example. Okay, let me go for T4. So T4 is my current task. In bottom level, what I can calculate? Current task to your exit task. How many paths are there? T4 can reach to T5, then T5 to T6 you can reach to T6, or you can directly reach to T6. So you have two paths. If you are following this path, T4 to T6 directly, so the cost is 4 plus 4 is the computation time, 11 plus 8. So if you add it, 11 plus 4 is 15 plus 8 is 23. But if you follow this particular path, 4 plus 9 is 13, 13 plus 2 is 15, 15 plus 5 is 20, 20 plus 8 is 28. So out of these two, you have to choose the maximum one. That's why T level of T4 is 28. Okay. Based on that, you can perform the scheduling and you can try for other tasks as well. Coming to the third parameter is called as your static bottom level or called as SL. It is same as your T level. In T level also you are going for given task to the exit task. Sorry, it is same as your your previous one, that is B level. That is given task to your exit task. But what it is saying? It is saying you should not consider the communication time between the given task to the exit task. That's why it is no. Let us see one example. Let us take T4 again. So T4 to T6, there is two different paths. One is via T5, another is via T6, directly to T6. So while you are going, what you will not calculate? You will not calculate the communication time. Means this communication time you will not calculate. So what is the time you will get? 4 plus 8 is directly 12. Or if you follow this particular path, it is 4 plus 2 plus 8, that is 14. The maximum one is 14. So the static bottom level or S level of T4 is 14. Similarly, you can calculate for other tasks. Based on that also you can perform the scheduling. Right? The next one is called as the last one, that is called as late as possible. As late as possible is different from all the things whatever we discussed till now. It is saying how much the time, execution time, or time the execution of a given node, a particular task you can delay. How much time the execution you can delay for a particular task. So in order to find ALAP, what you have to do? You have to do the reverse operation. The reverse operation is you will start from a exit task and you will go to a particular task, given task. So in order to calculate ALAP, the formula is you have to go for the critical path. Critical path is the path from the start node to end node, and it is the maximum path. It is there in the software engineering subject. You will start from the root node to the end node, okay? Start node to end node, and you will go for each and every possible path. Whichever path is maximum, that is called as a critical path. Once you determine this critical path, and once you determine the path between the exit task to given task, that you will subtract from the critical path. So if you calculate the critical path for this workflow, you will get 43. So let us calculate the ALAP. ALAP is nothing but, suppose I am calculating ALAP of T5. So I know the critical path is 43. So only I have to calculate the subtraction part. That is nothing but the exit task to the current task. So exit task is your 8. Exit task is your T6. And your current task is your T5. And communication time is 5. You have to do the reverse operation. So if you, while you are doing the reverse operation, you have to subtract how much? You have to subtract only the exit task value, not to the communication time, not to this one. Right? So how much you will subtract? Sorry. This is wrong. This is wrong one, right? So first you will to calculate the critical path. Let me correct it. That critical path is your 43. Okay. So I have to subtract the path. For example, for T5, what I have to do? I have to calculate from the exit task to the current task. So what I have to subtract? I have to subtract the computation time is 8, communication time is 5, and computation time is 2. So that is nothing but 8 plus 5 plus 2. So it is nothing but 8 plus 5 is 13 plus 2 is 15. So I have to subtract 15 from 43. How much you will get? You will get 28. So if you see, the ALAP is 28. Similarly, if you calculate for T6, it is nothing but 43 minus 8. That is 35. Right? In this manner, you can calculate ALAP for other tasks, and based upon that also you can perform the scheduling. So in today's lecture, what we discussed, I told you about 3 resource allocation algorithm by taking the numerical example. One is by the base algorithm Hygia, and the improvement over Hygia is GPS. Another improvement is called as your ALTRA. Then we discussed 2 other concepts of resource allocation. One is called as your fairness algorithm, posted price model. In task scheduling, we discussed various measures like T level, B level, S level, ALAP, and critical path. And also we discussed 2 different algorithms, that is round robin algorithm and scheduling. That is these scheduling algorithms, right? Apart from that also there is lot of algorithms are there, but due to time constraint, I have only covered this 7 algorithms of task scheduling and 5 algorithms of resource allocation. Hope this lecture will be useful to you to carry out further research in the field of resource allocation and task scheduling algorithm. And these are the references. And if you have any questions, you can ask. This is all from my side.